Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George Affleck.
And it is time for
Unspun, and yes, I am wearing pants.
Thank God for small miracles.
Small miracles, but did you see the Christopher Reeves kid on
Yes.
Good Morning
Good Morning America?
Not wearing pants. I mean,
I gotta tell you, he was wearing gym shorts,
Sure.
and I spent a great number of years, thankfully, sitting next to Jim Van Horn doing sports at Sportsnet. And I'm telling you what, from spring until fall, from the waist down underneath that desk, he was wearing a pair of often khaki shorts with flip-flops.
Well, pajama bottoms, I think okay. I think I've done that a couple of podcasts that I haven't told you about, but I don't know. That was a bit risky, and you could see that, he was put on the shirt and the jacket, and he just come on. I mean,
who framed him up though?
He doesn't. Of course, as you know, he had to do it himself. That's the challenge with all this broadcasting from home. Everybody's become the broadcaster and the operations team. So he thought he'd set it up properly, and technical difficulties. But now, of course, he's created a huge following. I didn't know who he was before this. I've forgotten his first name, but he's Christopher Reeves' kid. So now he's going to probably get more work. So
totally, for something funny. You know what? And we all need a little bit of levity, right? This is something that what are we? We're 50 days in. It's almost Mapril, right? Mapril. It's one of those, when we were all sent home, locked down, laid off, whatever happened to you, whatever happened to our listener or viewer, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing good. We're doing good. We're in it.
We're in it. I had one of my staff, though, who's emailed and said, how much longer do we have to work from home? Seriously, can't we just make it work? I want to go to the office. I'm like, that's nice of them to love working in the office. But it's a good question. When can we go back? When am I allowed to, it's self-imposed, as you know.
Well, let's unspin that. Let's unspin that a bit. First of all, we got to say you got to follow George __ Affleck on Twitter, at Jody Vance on Twitter, Jody with a Y, at the Orca BC. Of course, you're probably watching us at theorca.ca if you want to watch us on video, or you're listening anywhere you get your podcasts here to UnSpun Podcast. But just following along on Twitter, and we can talk about the negative side, because you see the partisanship come back into things, and you're like, oh, that's where we're going. But when you're following along on, the must-watch television or must-listen radio every single day is Dr. Bonnie Henry and Adrian Dix, our health minister, with their daily updates. And the tone has changed a little bit on those. And then when Premier John Horgan had his presser yesterday, his tone was really interesting. And there's a lot to be sort of
hope, light at the end of the tunnel. Could it be? What will normal be? Is it coming? The new normal for a while, I think, is coming. And at least in BC, I think we're a little bit ahead of everybody else. Although Saskatchewan and Manitoba have moved forward pretty quick, but they didn't have the number of cases that we've seen in other parts of Canada. I think it's a while before Ontario and Quebec are there, but I think that we're heading in the right direction. The numbers seem to be on our side. I think the only challenge we have, as you know, is the federally regulated facilities are the ones letting us down. With the number of cases, and which is ironic, and they have to take the heat for that. Why are these becoming rampant in prisons and in meatpacking plants?
Well, I will say that in Dr. Bonnie, just that note of why in these meatpacking plants, obviously, or slaughterhouses or whatever you want to call it, the vegans are getting upset with the use of sort of tempering what these facilities actually are. They're slaughterhouses, it's where your chicken, it's where your meat comes from. And the people work very close together. Oftentimes are foreign workers who have, come for a very specific job and are working hourly and are basically told they have to come to work no matter what. And what Dr. Henry and what Adrian Dix and certainly what our premier and our prime minister, for that matter, are all saying is you can't go to work sick anymore. You just can't. Yeah. That's going to be our new normal. It doesn't matter if it's allergies. It used to be you had to be on death's doorstep.
I hated not going to work. I mean, I would be proud of showing how, mind over matter. That's just saying to my kids, you're not sick, go to school. Ah.
If you can walk, you can work. That's what I was told. Well, I remember I got your lovely wife sick last year. Anyway, I digress. But I will never do it again. And that's what they're saying is what's happening in these work environments, and certainly in the prison environments, close quarters. It's hard to socially distance or physically distance in a prison. Yeah. But it is that's going to be the new normal is going to be, if you have a symptom of any kind, you need to be socially aware enough to be quarantined for 14 days. That's it.
Until we're through this whole virus thing. But, and employers, it's the challenge. They have to be thoughtful about this. And the good thing is that, I mean, barring jobs where you can't work from home, but we're being able to work from home. People understand that that's possible. You can do that now. So this is a good thing.
You know what? That's a really good point too, George. And I didn't think of it until right now, because we are set up to work from home. You can still be really productive depending on your job. I mean, not at a slaughterhouse or a meat processing facility. You can't, but there are ways to still, contribute to the workload. Maybe there's some way that employers can sort of be a little bit more accommodating, I think, or aware that it could cause your entire company to shut down if you allow 1, 2, 5, 20, whatever it is, of your employees to work sick.
Absolutely. And, most companies have a limited number of days that they provide for sick days. But this, if you're not that sick, but you're a bit sick, stay home, work from home, do what you can. But obviously some jobs you can't. So those companies usually have different rules for sick days. But it's certainly woken us all up to employee benefits and employee relations and all those things. And it's costly, though.
Yeah, it is costly. Well, you were tweeting about some numbers. One of the reasons I brought up the George _Affleck Twitter feed is because some numbers.
I've got my cup of tea here.
Look at you! You're little. Where did you get that mug?
I think it's my mom's. I think it's like.
I love that.
It's got water in it though, because I don't drink tea.
Get the pinky up.
43
communicators. Are they still there? Is it still 43? We got to check.
I've heard they're busier than ever, actually, because of all the stuff that's going on. So they're the one department in HR, I think, that probably haven't been affected by any layoffs at the city of Vancouver, ironically.
Let's talk about City of Vancouver a little bit, because we do have some changes coming for people who drive and park. Parking enforcement is back. When? Soon.
Now, I think it started yesterday. It was immediate. I warned my son. I said, because he already got a parking ticket, and I'm not sure, and he didn't tell me. And I got it in the mail. I'm like, what is this? Because I haven't been driving anywhere. Well, I got a ticket, and who's afraid to tell me? So in my dad van, pretty cool for a 19-year-old to be driving around the dad van. But getting a ticket, how did you get a ticket when there's no ticket? He said he parked in some place where in a driveway. I'm like, oh, for God's sakes. Anyways, I texted him saying, hey, it's on, so no more. Don't do it again, buddy. That's $145 you have to send me because he missed the deadline. So it's like for him, that's like a week of pay. I know, a lot hard lesson. So the parking's back, but there's the whole parking department. $70 million in revenue. 20 million of that 70 is in parking tickets, but the 50 million is actually revenue from parking meters. And this is significant money. So the ROI, I think I've brought this up in the past, the ROI, the return on investment for staff to the revenue is certainly there. Of all the departments at City Hall, it's a moneymaker. So
why wouldn't we pay for parking? I have no problem with paying for parking. I really don't. I have a problem with frontline healthcare workers getting ticketed for working extra shifts and working extra hours. And if we can do what we can to keep, and I don't know who's in charge of the hospital parking lots, because the casino parking lots are free. So, So if the casino lots can be free, the hospital lots can be free. Like somehow, some way, this whole argument that it'll fill with a bunch of people that are otherwise going to abuse the luxury of having free parking. Fine. Let those jackasses do that. If you're going to be the guy that's going to park in the hospital parking lot and walk your way to wherever you're going, you're a jerk, but fine. I'd rather put up with that guy and have free parking for our health.
Wow, and I think they can create simple tags for the staff. Right. The parking, by the way, parking in hospitals is the bane of cities all across the province's existence, because they always underbuild their parking in hospitals, always, because it's expensive. And so the province, for whatever reason, always underbuilds their parking. And so therefore, people are reliant on street parking around hospitals. There's just not enough parking in hospitals. So, and now, of course, it's the province's decision to not make it free, and there has to be a process for it. But parking in hospitals has always been a problem and continues to be a problem. And I would say this is a challenge to the province. Fix this now, but also in the future. build more parking in the parking
Build
lots.
more parking. Just
An
do
extra
it.
floor
Hey,
underground.
I've got really good news for you. Your dream may just come true of allowing patios to be, it could be Granvillestrasse.
Granvillestrasse. 2 of my motions will finally come true that I did when I was in council about patios and opening up our city to more fun. Yeah, I know. It's. I think there was a motion on the books yesterday at council to alleviate some of the to loosen up the rules. Some restaurants have to pay $7,000 a year to expand patios outside their houses. It's brutal. So hopefully, but there are rules in the province that for example, fencing. There's really strict rules on fencing around patios. Like, why? Come on. Like, seriously.
There's no reason. And that was some of the impetus for this. Is there was some reporting from, and I can't remember it was European for sure. There was a place that is using public plazas and public spaces for restaurants to utilize those spaces for social distancing to serve their food. So imagine in front of the Vancouver Art Gallery, that plaza there, each day could feature different restaurants that utilize that space, that have socially distanced tables where people can pay through their Apple Pay or whatever, and they can bring their own booze. Yes, I said it. Their own booze.
Well, hey, the fact that we can get booze delivered now, no problems for restaurant. Finally, we're getting into a maturity level that we should have been at years ago. I mean, this whole nanny state that we've had for so long about alcohol consumption and where. How about the beaches next? Can we not have a drink on the beach now? Come on.
Please.
Easy to social distance on a beach. There's a lot of space at Jericho and the West End. Can I go down there with my souvlaki and my bottle of wine now? Can I, please?
Yeah, we should. If we can do a pandemic, we're mature enough to have wine at the beach.
I think so.
I really do.
Well, that's good news.
And golf courses. It is good news. There's good news on golf courses, right? That's been happening in South Surrey, Delta, White Rock. My brother's been golfing for weeks. Like when everybody in Vancouver's like, we can't get to the pitch and putt at the what-da-da. I'm like, why? Why can you?
That's my level of pitch and putt. That's my kind of golf.
But people want to go. And if you socially distance and you space yourself out, it's a beautiful walk in the park ruined by a little ball. That's what it is.
Usually my ball, in fact. I agree. And I thought there was a little bit of a dig from the premier on that too, sort of pushing that, we didn't tell you to close down those golf courses. That was your decision, whether it was the cities or the private guys. We never said to close down your golf courses, nor did they tell us to close down our tennis courts. Also, I can't, seriously, come on. Why can't I go play tennis 50 feet away from somebody else with a tennis racket with my ball? I mean, that's a bit ridiculous. And so, we need George, exercise.
Can we break that one down a little bit? Because we did see so many viral videos of groups of people, clearly not of one family, utilizing whatever, the soccer pitch at Kitsilano High or the basketball courts down near Yaletown, like right on the seawall there. What's the name of the park there? David Lamb Park. Sort of just on the other side of that, there's basketball courts that clearly were being used by people who always use those courts and whatever, and so they just shut them down.
Few bad apples.
Right, few bad apples. But when you talk about like parking enforcement, because so you do have bylaw officers, you do have people, and if there were people that were just present from certain times of day, who could just say, hey, are you all in one family? Yes. Okay. You know what? Go ahead.
Yeah.
We just need, because they're going to be assholes. There are going to be assholes who are going to abuse the system and likely take it over to the degree that you and I with our families wouldn't have access at all. So
and there's always going to be people who are going to cause this virus to continue to spread. Getting to zero, I think, is going to be very, very, very difficult. There's always going to be people who are just going to flout. We've seen them. They're protesting, for God's sake, saying this is all a big conspiracy. I think they're always going to be out there. Yeah. So you kind of have to assume that's going to continue on. But do we all need to be punished because of that? I thought it was a bit overkill on the rules and regulations on things like tennis and golf, and we're looser in BC on a lot of categories than in other provinces. We kept manufacturing going, we kept building construction going. You were allowed to, if you wanted to keep operating as an office and have your staff there, you were certainly allowed to, as long as you thought about and considered how to social distance. You were responsible for your team's safety. And so a lot of employers like, oh, I don't think I can promise that. But I think we're seeing that now as we head into, the safe zone of the numbers, that we're going, as I said earlier, about, can we get back into our offices? Can we opening restaurants? How do we do that? All these things, it's all very positive moving forward. But I thought there was a certain amount of panic that was at the start that created to a lot of negativity. But it was worse in other places than here. So we shouldn't complain too much.
Right. And I agree with you on all those fronts. I felt very comforted at the end of Dr. Bonnie Henry and Adrian Dick's press conference on Wednesday, where she was answering a question, because there's so much misinformation running around. Like I've got friends who literally will not leave their house, nor will they let their dog out of the house, because they're afraid that the dog can catch it and give it to them, because they read somewhere that they could. Like, everybody has more information than everybody else. But if you actually listen to the epidemiologists, if you actually listen to the doctors and the scientists, what she said at the end of her press conference, it's at the 45-minute mark of Wednesday's update. Have a listen. It's the very last question that she answered. And I went back and listened to it a couple of times, because she was very, very clear. We've all seen now we got to come from another word from viral, but the article that went viral about joggers, and how with the heavy breathing, they drop these big clouds of droplets, right? So you need to get away from the joggers and don't breathe. Right. I kind of felt it. I got to say, I'm out and about and I'm doing my daily power walks and whatever. I get right out of the way of the joggers, because it feels like I don't like a group of joggers. That's not cool. But Dr. Bonnie, and she said, you never say never in medicine, but the instances or the probability of your contracting this virus by a jogger running by you is infinitesimal. Yeah. And I was I need to share that.
Well, and I went for a run this morning, actually, compared to a few weeks ago, and it was quite different. I mean, we get on to Stanley Park in a second, because that's, I was running along seawall, but there was definitely a little more, people weren't as panicky as they were a few weeks ago. I ran by a few people. I was trying to keep my distance, but nobody was like, like they were a few weeks ago.
They were.
But we do have a wider seawall, and now people want it wide forever.
Oh, I know. Let's talk about that with Stanley Park. This is, okay, you know what? You car-free people, calm down. Calm down. We're not making Stanley Park car-free permanently. The reason why it is now is to give that social distancing space to the seawall, so the cyclists and the runners can use the roadway, and in this lower traffic time in our generation. This is one window. I loved it when I sent it to you. I'm like, now they're talking about wanting Stanley Park to be car-free permanently, and your response was?
Ugh.
And then?
Wedges, I don't know, I can't remember, because I sent a couple of things out to people. You
went right into, well, that's just another way of welcoming a new homeless camp, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Part of having people constantly in the park is important, and also all ages. John Cooper, of course, is being fairly aggressive on this, and immediately what's happening is the wedgers are going to wedge. This is a wedge issue. Oh, it's bikes versus cars. Oh my God, please, can we not make it about that now? No, it's not. We need to have the park accessible to everyone. That being said, there might be some good information and data that we can say, do we need 2 lanes? Maybe we don't. Maybe
I was going to say that. I'm with you. One lane.
Some passing lanes, and we can have a proper bike route along there, which, of course, have you ever ridden around Stanley Park and gone up, and you get up to the top, and then you ride? That was super fun. So much fun. But it's a killer getting up that hill.
That hill is something else. You need an e-bike. But I was thinking the same thing, George. I'm thinking if we can make that loop around Stanley Park more about being fit than it is a shortcut if there's an accident on the causeway, right? Because sometimes people are ripping through that park. I have ripped through that park. I have done it. I'm speaking from being the jerk, but it's been a long time since. But when I used to live on the North Shore, and it was like, well, I guess I'm just going to go around the park instead. And if it was
pretty sweet drive too, if you're in a car, if you're in a sports car, that route is kind of fun. But I don't have a sports car. My dad's van does not go to sport. I think
my brother's Porsche was very fun going around there in 1998. Just saying. So the back and forth on Stanley Park is really kind of something. I'm glad that Trisha and Sarah Kirby-Young, I think, is on board with that.
But Trisha and John. But I'm worried that the majority on the council might go for the idea. They could, You have a green Cope Alliance there. And John and, this is like the Oppenheimer Park thing. Their vote was 2-6 every single time. So they could.
I think there would be a huge protest if that happened.
Well, it certainly would kill the aquarium, and they're already struggling. So maybe that's their intention.
Well, they raised a lot of money with the Whitecaps with the masks.
Did they?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, a lot. Like, we're really significantly surprised with the response to that. So
not as much as that old guy in England who was 100 years old and did 100 laps around his backyard or something. You hear about that guy? Raised 30 million pounds.
Unbelievable. There's the guy that climbed the equivalent of Everest by doing his stairs in his house.
Yeah. Okay.
We're crazy beings. We're crazy beings. Yeah. I do want to get back to one thing though, that I know you aren't a fan of the boarded up storefronts, right? But I really have to say that I'm impressed with the beautiful murals that are a result of these boarded up spaces. I'm kind of feeling like that post-pandemic and light at the end of the tunnel, like there should be a permanent installation of the art that is being created in the city. Like, it really is impressive, and it isn't $12.5 million to make that art. It just is art. I just wanted to give a shout out to those artists.
It's quite different than remember after the riots, I think it was, there was all that hoarding that got there's all the people signing stuff on it, and they wanted to keep it. I think they did keep a lot of it, but I'm not, if it's at the Vancouver Museum, I'm not sure. If anybody knows where that is, because they have a big storage at the Vancouver Museum, and certainly that kind of stuff could be stored there for future interest. Plywood's not the longest lasting product in the world for art, but no, it's a good question. Although I still think, it still creates this whole boarding up thing. I still don't support it.
Right. And that's why I had the caveat off the top. But maybe you're as obsessed with the Commodore as the mayor. Maybe you want to get down there and go dancing, get a little 5440 with 50 people.
He likes to boogie at the Commodore. He brings it up at every press conference. Well,
why doesn't he open it? Why doesn't he open it?
He can. He never had to. The Commodore made the decision to close any club, or they just made the decision to close, or any business. It was our decisions. The city's rules were fairly specific. But
I thought Dr. Bonnie Henry said that she closed nightclubs.
Didn't she say 50 people or more events? Wasn't it? Wasn't the 50 rule?
Events. I do believe that the public health order includes
the restaurants,
and I have to double check that. Restaurants and clubs. Yeah. But the event spaces were under 50. So, but I think you're right.
I just think it's interesting. I think the roles and responsibilities of the city, and I feel like he keeps trying to pass the buck to the province about all these different things. It's like, oh my God, just focus on what you're able to do yourself, and also think about what you can actually make in a positive point of view for the city right now. It's just been so negative. He's just his press conferences are so down.
I'd like to hear what we can do for ourselves to help ourselves. Like, I'd like more about here's what we are doing, not here's what's being done to us and we're screwed. Like, I like that column that you sent to me earlier about the LA. Everybody's getting tested in LA, right? With or without symptoms. It's a free test. Everybody gets a test, and it's the serum test, right? It's the it's the one you cough in your arm 3 times. And then you swab your mouth for 20 seconds, and then you give the swab. So
it takes two or 3 days.
Yeah, it's not the big back of your nose one that's being done here. So I don't know about the accuracy of that test.
But it's interesting. There's obviously the United States and government is different than here. But yeah, the LA mayor said, okay, people seem to want this. I'm going to make it happen. And then you can feel, you can feel confident. If you go to a party and your dinner, you say, okay, has everybody had their swab? Are we all good? Let's come on in.
Right.
I think that, I think those kinds of things as we move forward, not the health stuff as well, but also the economy and talking. I get the sense, I don't get the sense that we're talking about how are we going to deal with this $250 billion additional debt in our federal government. Provincially, we don't know what the number is yet. It's going to be billions. And municipally, we're seeing these challenges. What is the plan to reignite the economy? As a business owner, I'm looking for leadership on this now. I'm going, okay, we're kind of getting a handle on the health thing. We know that there's going to be ups and downs, and we're probably going to be put into, quarantine again of some form till we get this thing totally nailed down. But so what's the plan? What's the plan to deal with this massive debt over the next 3 generations or forever? And what is the plan to really help businesses, who are struggling already, and to ignite the economy after this? Because we certainly will be, and if not a recession, a depression, with potentially 20% unemployment. That's what they're predicting in the States, 20%. It's crazy. And so I don't get a sense that leaders are still talking about the health thing. That's important, of course, but what is the plan? Start thinking about this plan. Who's behind the plan in Canada? Who are the brains behind the plan for the economy? I don't know who they are, where they're coming from, but we need to start hearing that, because right now I'm looking at my budget for my business going in September. Okay, what's my new business development going to look like? Where are my clients coming from? Who's going to want marketing? If you're a dentist, who's going to be allowed in? How am I going to deal with this? If you're a restaurant, every business right now is going,
but I don't think anybody knows. Because if this all ends in a month, it's a very different reality than if this all ends in 24 months. It's very difficult to spend a great deal of time, energy, and woman hours, on projecting those things when it is absolutely like throwing a dart at a moving object.
Yes, absolutely. But get the greatest minds together now and start thinking about it. I don't get the sense that they are.
I think that they are. I think that because nobody wants everything to implode.
But I don't know who's leading this group then. I don't know who's going. It's the prime minister. Okay, sure. But who's the great economists and the great leaders that are going to, and people who understand the economy in, the Warren Buffetts are going to States. Who are the people that are going to navigate and help us understand how to, if there's going to be investment, more tax dollars investing, how will that work? Is it just going to be big projects like highways and bridges and things like that? Or is it going to be something else? How much money will that take? Even if it's 24 months or 12 months, there needs to be a plan that's begun now so that it can be turned on at the moment that it can be turned on.
See, and I think that the consumer is going to change so exponentially, it'd be hard to predict. That's just my take on it. Because I know my buying plan, my consumerism has already been radically changed. What I thought I needed versus what I need now, very different.
Yeah, I think so.
And how things to restart, I don't know. Just my perspective.
I think human nature. Consumption is, people like buying stuff. It's human nature.
Oh, I'm not saying everybody's like me. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying
for me, I think
it would be hard for you or anybody else to predict what I'm going to do.
I can navigate what you're going to do. My job is to help you. I'm going to help you understand what you need to do in marketing.
You're hired. You're hired, George. Hey, you got to read my middle this week.
Yeah.
It is about something that hits both you and I with regard to kids back to school. Lots of parents that I'm seeing are really freaked out about the fact that their kids are not taking to online learning. And there are other parents that are like,
how much yelling is going on in everybody's house? Get back to work.
Yeah.
Sit down. Stop petting the cats.
And the cats. And reopening schools and what that might look like. And some are saying that's, you can't do that. And my column's more about, I think we've trusted Dr. Bonnie Henry to this point. We should continue to trust her. And if she thinks that schools can open to some degree and help kids who are maybe struggling or need extra assistance, because everybody's on pause. Like, don't panic if your kid isn't exponentially going up the IB food chain. Like, relax. And that's kind of what I wrote about.
Nice. So it's a good one. It's a good one. Another excellent column.
Well, thank you, George Affleck. Another excellent podcast with you too. So
is it over already?
I know. Fast one.
Huh.
That's it.
All right. Well, nice seeing you again.
Say goodbye, George.
Bye.